have faith in God is not a stagnant state. It's a journey. As a believer, we should grow in our knowledge of God and His Word. Walk with Alan Cutting and many other believers as together we walk the believer's journey.
Aloha, and welcome again to the Believer's Journey. Thank you for joining us, thank you for supporting us, and thank you for your prayers and everything you do. We appreciate it so much. Today I have a very special program and a very special guest with me. They flew all the way from Moldova just to be here. I have Radu and Liuda Cucos, and they are missionaries with Campus Crusade in the Republic of Moldova. And say hello.
Hello.
Hello, aloha.
Nice to be here.
So, I want to start off with introducing them and letting you know who they are. They've been in the ministry as full-time missionaries for over 20 years now. What, 22 years?
22 years.
22 years. And they've been in Moldova. They weren't transplanted to Moldova. They're actually from Moldova. They were born when Moldova was part of the USSR.
Correct.
So they were like slaves.
Well, we didn't think that we are slaves at that time.
But now you look back and it's pretty bad.
Yes, when you have information, yes, you can say yes.
And Moldova, for those of you who do not know, now I've talked about Moldova for many of my programs, probably most of them. And I wanted, now that we have going on in Eastern Europe, Russia has invaded Ukraine. A lot of people don't know where Moldova is. I get a lot of questions, where is Moldova? And they've never heard of Moldova. But I have a map here. I'm going to put it up to this camera, and you can see there the little orange area, which is between Romania and Ukraine. Okay, that little orange area is the country of Moldova. Okay, little small country. And one of the reasons why I love Moldova so much is because the people are so warm and inviting and hospitable. In fact, it was really funny, the way I actually first came to Moldova was by invitation of the Moldova Bible Seminary there in Chisinau, and I accidentally booked my flight a week early. And the president of the seminary told me, well, you'll have to find a place to stay, because he had nowhere for me to put me. So I happened to call Radu, who I had met a couple years before here in San Antonio, and he had stayed with me. And so basically, I called him and said, I'm coming a week early, I don't know what to do. And he says, well, don't worry, you can come stay with us and we'll put you to work. So that was the beginning of my work in Moldova, and it's never stopped. And I work with Campus Crusade, I work with KBC Ministries, I help out with other ministries as well that work with schools. So the staff and Campus Crusade, or CRU, in Moldova has become very close to me. I worked with them. We support many of the missionaries there. And Radu and Liuda are just dear to my heart. They are two of the most amazing people I know in all of my life. And I am not telling you this because they're sitting here. I'm telling you this because it's really true. Anyway, Moldova was considered the poorest country in all of Europe, Eastern and Western Europe, at least until the war. Now, I don't know if Ukraine is poorer than you now, but there's probably not very many people. I have no idea. Do you know?
Me neither.
Yeah.
Well, when we hosted Ukrainian refugees, a woman told me that before the war, the economy in Ukraine was higher than in Moldova.
Yeah. In fact, Ukraine was considered probably the second poorest, just below you, or above you. The interesting thing about Moldova, the average income is about around $350 in the city.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it is in the villages. Do you?
Well, it's average for Moldova, so we don't say in the village or in the city. So it's average in Moldova.
Okay.
Because there can be jobs in villages to be well paid and also bad paid. The same in the city. So city just look more crowded.
Well, because of the they're so poor, what happens is many of the adults, people will get married and they'll have children and they'll need to support their children, then they won't have the funds to do that. So what happens is the father and sometimes the mother will leave the country and work in another country to support their children, while all the while the children are being raised by either the mother or aunt and uncle or grandparents or an orphanage. And so what happens is people grow up without the idea of understanding what a relationship is all about, and then they get married, and so what we have is a divorce rate that's about 55%. Is that about correct?
55, 60, depends on the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a real problematic situation. In the world of Christianity now, the evangelical Christian church, if you will, is probably about 2%. 2% of the country, and so and because the Orthodox Church is so powerful, they consider the evangelical church like a cult.
Correct.
Okay, so it's really an uphill battle. I mean, what you are doing, what you've been doing for 22 years, has been totally uphill all the way.
Yeah. So we started with student ministry because we were students and we got involved with Campus Crusade. Well, I think that I had a calling to be missionary long before I joined Campus Crusade, but I was young and I studied in college, and I knew already what I want to do after college. So I was thinking to go in Africa, to be missionary somewhere in Africa. Somehow I thought that, Africa is for, missions, and, being students, for me being student, I learned that, my country needs to hear about God. Even people say that we are Orthodox Christians, but, according to the statistics today, about 20% of people are practicing their faith. Well, when I say practicing, it means that people go to church, assist for a liturgy, they may obey some traditions, and it's only 20%. So I got that understanding that my country, my people, have to hear about true gospel, not only to have some traditions, Christian traditions or Orthodox traditions, but to really follow Christ's teaching. And so after graduation, I joined Campus Crusade. A year later, we got married, and we've been in student ministry for 12 years with Campus Crusade.
Now, you said something very, very interesting, because something that I teach on my program, and you and I have talked a lot about this, and I hear when I'm in Moldova, when you teach, that you use this, what you did on the program right now. It's not just that people believe that they understand God is true, it's that they actually follow the teachings.
Correct.
And for me, a true believer, a true Christian, isn't somebody who thinks or says, "Oh, I know God is up there, God is true, God is real," but it's somebody who actually walks and follows the very teachings of Jesus. That is what a true believer is.
Yeah.
And I take that from the original language, pistuo, which we translate to the word believe, but the dictionary translates or defines believe as something we understand, where the word pisteuo in the Greek means something we act on.
Yes.
So that there is a big problem, not just in Moldova, but probably everywhere in the world. I know for sure in the United States and in Canada.
Well, I would say about my country that there are Orthodox Christians that really follow Christ's teaching. But I would say that they are so few because their position, I would say, of Orthodox Church is like we baptize children, they become Christians, and they are learning the whole life. And the learning is like you do by yourself, and usually people don't get that. Well, we need to read Bible to know what God says, or what are God commandments. Yeah, so they just hear from different people or from some traditions like Easter. Yeah, so we know that Jesus is Son of God. We grew up with this after I felt of USSR. So we heard about this a lot, but like for me, and it was for Liuda too, so attending an Orthodox church, I didn't get that Jesus died for my personal sin. I knew that he died for sins, but not for me. And it took a while to figure out that he died for me personal, because in Orthodox Church it's like he died for sins. That's it. And when it goes to personal relationship with God, is like no, we don't have personal relationship with God because God is somewhere there and we are here, and we need somebody between us, and usually it's a priest.
It's interesting. In my relationship with Radu and Liuda, I've come to know them in such an amazing way. I can see in Radu that he obviously, it's obvious he has the gift of wisdom. I mean, it's just,
Thank you.
in fact, I have the gift of stupidity. You look at my life, through my life, and all I've done is make really stupid decisions, and it's pretty evident. But when I have a real situation that I need to ask somebody, there's two people that I ask. One is Lon Ekdahl, he's been on this program, and the other is you. It's funny because you're so much younger than me, that for me to go to you, it's like, people think you're wise when you're older. Well, not necessarily,
Yeah.
So, and Liuda, you have this boldness of the Scripture, a boldness of Christ. It's just amazing. Especially, you're such a little person with such great and powerful boldness of Christ. I want to ask you, in your words, because you've obviously been together in this ministry, what is it to you to work in as a missionary in Moldova?
Well, first of all, this is a privilege for me because God called me, and it is not easy to follow this call because it takes pretty often me from my comfort zone, but I know that I will have something amazing in the heaven because I received God's callings, and I'm looking forward how it will be after everything will stop. And I know that to believe and to follow Jesus, it is not just to sit or waiting his second coming is just passive waiting. I know that he calls us to wait actively, and my time waiting his second coming is pretty active. I I love him and I want to do for him something, not just something. I want to do his will here, and I know what his will and his calling is to go to share the gospel, to tell what Jesus told to his disciples, and to make sure that they are following, to teach them, to help them to grow in their faith. This is very important to me.
Now, for the most of the years that I've known you, and I guess most of the years you've been in this ministry, you've lived in a little apartment, close to about 600 square feet. You had 2 bedrooms, and you had 4 children.
Yeah.
So you are active in the ministry, you are active in raising your children, and for ministers, you really balance this really well. I mean, both of you are amazing at raising your children. I would say Liuda more than Radu. Yeah. It's like she has this natural ability, but she's just on top of it, you know, and she's just, okay, you do this, you do that, you do that. We're going now. Okay, 5. Okay, let's go. And we're done. We're ready. And she's cooking meals, and she's just amazing. How do you manage all of this, Liuda?
I don't know. I just do this because I have to do this, and nobody can do. Nobody can be a wife for Radu like I am, and nobody can be a mother for my children. And I try to do my best. I am praying always for wisdom, for health, for power to do this. And just, I think God helps me. He asks in my prayers.
Well, you know, a few years ago, somebody asked, it's not common for Moldova to have 4 kids, so even for Moldova it's a lot. But there are people having more kids than we do. So one day a lady asked me, well, how you can have so many kids and raise them? I said, well, you know, I don't ask myself how. I know that I have to because I have them already. And my focus is not to cry out and say, well, how I can raise my children, but it's okay. What I have to do to raise them, okay, I have to care for their soul, yeah, because we believe that they have to learn from us about Christ. What I have to do for them to have food, to have supplies for school, to have clothing or other things, and it's my walking in faith with God, caring for what He gave to us. Mm-hmm. It's not crying and say, well, it's so hard. Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes I know what to do. Sometimes I don't know. But because we have God, I often ask Him, well, you are a father. Can you teach me how to be a father?
And about everyday deeds? Work. Yeah. I have to decide all the time what is important, what is not important. Yeah. And I excluded from my life many stuff. I don't watch TV, I don't spend time on Facebook. Even I wish to spend time texting with my friends, what I cannot say every day. But, I decided to, I know what I have only 24 hours per day, and I have to do what is most important. And I know what for Jesus, most important were people, his prayer time when he left people and he stood by himself and had time with his Father. So I understand that I have important time and less important.
So, what I can say that I have witnessed, it's a great word, what I've witnessed with you two is that you actually take seriously the work in the mission field of reaching people for Christ, teaching and making disciples to help them grow in Christ, because I've watched you counsel people, sit with people, help people, Because you don't just win them to Christ and go to someone else only. You actually, I've seen this.
Yes.
And I've seen you raise your children as part of a ministry to help them understand what it is to be a boy or a girl, child of God, your child, and all the manners and things that belong to children. Like they're part of your ministry as well as Campus Crusade.
Yes, our ministry is not our job. This is our life. This is part of our life. And children are part of our life also. So they see our life, how is it, and they see our walking with God. And all the time I invite them to be part of my life, well, because they're our children.
What's really cool is now you have your oldest son, Emmanuel. I've watched him now play guitar with a worship group. I've watched Daniel, your second son. He is actually in the leadership of the teens. Now he works with the teens, and he's a natural with that. That's amazing.
Yes.
So you have two children already in the ministry, maybe not full time, but they're already working and doing what they've been taught.
Yeah, well, I never considered that I have to be only one, or we have to be only one to teach them following Christ. I believe in church. I believe that God divided gifts in the church, and I always thought that my children have to be taught by me, but also to be taught by other Christians. So, I'm not in a youth ministry, and I'm not anymore in student ministry, but my son is a student. So I talk to people from student ministry and say, hey, guys, take my son, impact his life while he's a student, and also with Daniel, second boy, because people have gifts, people have influence, people have what to teach teenagers or young adults. And so we try to expose them to the church, and in this way they find their way how they can serve God. Yeah.
It's amazing. I wouldn't be surprised at all if God happens to call Daniel to the ministry. I wouldn't be surprised. He's got a natural gift. Now, whether he uses that in the ministry full time or whether he uses it as a side thing with having a job and is a lay minister, I don't know, but he's got a natural gift, and I really think that's cool.
Yeah, well, a few days ago, before we were talking about after graduation, for him to go to law school. And so this year he said, well, no, he wants to go to art academy. And I said, oh, okay. And a few days ago I told you that you'll see, he'll finish teaching children.
It may be, yeah. And Emmanuel several days ago told me that he's thinking about ministry. And he asked me, what do you think about if I will choose ministry? And I answered, if God calls you, you have to follow his call.
You have to say yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's very true. My father, I was told by my mother years ago that my father had said that he was called to the ministry. Of course, he never did this. He went into construction to be a contractor instead, and always looking for the great dollar. He wants to make all that money. And later in life, he and I had a talk, and I told him, I asked him if he was called. He says, well, yeah, I think I was. I says, you probably missed out on a lot of blessing because you didn't follow God's calling, and you would have been blessed so much differently and so much more than you realize. So I think that's true. If you don't follow the calling, that you're going to miss out on blessing.
Well, but I think that everyone, every Christian has a calling to be a minister where they live, where they work. So, and for people as we are, I would say that maybe there is not a special calling, but a different calling, like to be full-time in the ministry. I know a lady in Moldova. She was working for something like 911, when she was working there, she said, "Well, my goal is to share gospel to everyone, including my boss, her boss." During the time she shared the gospel to all her colleagues, but she couldn't manage to approach to the director. And she said that, well, I had a calling to do full-time ministry, and I had to say to the director that I'm quitting. And director asked why you are doing that, because you are a good worker, you do very well job.
She was the best worker in this company.
Yeah, and she said, well, I think that for this moment, God called me here, I did my job here, and I did my ministry here, and now it's time to share gospel to you. So she did that. And if every believer will think like that, I think that will be really cool.
Well, yeah, and I think that we're all called as ministers, always, no matter what. But I think there is a separation of full-time ministers. Yeah, but we all need to live a life of holiness. I know that's something that's on your heart, something on mine, that holiness is really high up there in our focus of how we need to put our lives. I think that's huge. Now, you also have two daughters. Of course, they're 11 and 13. Your 13-year-old, Amira, is just close to my heart. Susan told me the other day that she wants to stay here. I said, we should tell her if she knows more English, I would tell her parents I'm keeping her. But she doesn't know as much English as she should.
Well, English is not a disease. You can learn it.
Yes. So, anyway, you've got a great family. And you've really put a dent into your world. And when I say put a dent, you really made a difference in people's lives.
Thank you.
From the student ministry to family ministry to now you're actually working with leaders and you're on the leadership team. I think it's amazing what you do and the different ministries that you are in, because you're in multiple ministries and you do multiple things that a lot of people don't know. But you guys are amazing. Real quick, I want to touch on the fact that in February of this year, a whole new thing happened. Ukraine was, Russia invaded Ukraine, and all of a sudden you had 100,000 refugees coming over from Ukraine. And you guys were not prepared. But I know that talking to you, when you were just like 24 hours a day, you were so tired, and people were staying at your home. So tell us a little bit about this adventure. It's not really an adventure, but what happened and how you were doing, how you were feeling, and the things that had affected you, and how you affected the people who were coming over. Because I think there was over 300,000 that came over into Moldova, correct?
About 500,000 people.
Okay.
Yeah, so like in one day, our population increased 5 times. Not 5 times, 1/5. Yeah. So how it was for us? We have friends in Ukraine. And Campus Crusade has staff there, and of course we know each other because. When Campus Crusade started ministry in Moldova, we couldn't afford this program of training for staff, and so people went to Ukraine, receiving training and coming back. So we have friends there, and a lot of friends. So when on February 24th, we even heard those explosions in Moldova, and we didn't know what is going on. So later we found out in news that Russia invaded Ukraine. And we, as organization or as ministry, we thought, well, we must to be involved in this. And what we did in first days, we just went downtown because many cars were parked there, and we saw Ukrainian car plates. And we approached them asking, do you need some help, some direction, whatever. So people were scared. They said, no, we managed by our own. But later they say, well, we need, first what they need is a place to rest. And what we did first is open our house and other stuff. They just opened their apartments for people to get rest, because most of them wanted to go to Europe. So the beginning was providing a place to rest. And later we transformed our office in a shelter so that people can stay more days there, understanding what they want to do next. So this was the beginning. And God provided for us a house. We opened our house, inviting Ukrainians to stay overnight, over 2 nights, 3 nights. So we had only one family. They stayed 2 weeks with us, because in the beginning, many of them had problems with documents. And while they were making new documents, so they had to stay somewhere. Well, Liuda is very... she feels people and she wants to help, and so she was working much more than me. She was cooking, she was cleaning, she was crying with people, she was listening them, and so you can tell more.
Well, I was scared and was very worried if a war will go farther, and it was pretty close to our country. First day in the morning, I woke up and I heard the booms, and it was scaring. I didn't know what happens, but I knew something what Russia is going to do, and I thought, is it this? And after that, when we received news, I was very scared. So it happened. And I thought about these people. How do they will live? How will they survive? And when I heard that many refugees started to come to Chisinau, our city, I thought, if I would be in their place, what would I feel? I would need somebody who will host them, who will take care, who will just give them hope. So I wanted to be this person to give hope to refugees.
So we are even having jokes, like when Russia said that helping Ukrainians, you can have 15 years in the prison. I would say, okay, how many years do you have now? So I'm counting people.
Yeah.
So we got something like
23.
About 500 years in the prison.
Well, we had 4 dogs, 3 cats.
Wow.
Even we hosted refugee cat from Ukraine.
And eventually, I guess what was really remarkable is not only Campus Crusade, but you got together with all the several different churches and groups.
Yeah, that was something amazing even for us Moldovans. So probably the first time in my life I was really, really proud for church and for our country. Because churches and Christian organizations organize so well. So it's like not doing ministry or helping refugees separating from each other, but we join like one body. Like Samaritan Purse, they say, well, our need should be to buy food, and you'll distribute to people. And KBC, they say, well, we can raise money and buy what you need. And in this way, we could open a refugee center with the help of other organizations and churches. And we organized a platform where Ukrainians could read or could write their needs, like shelter, clothing, food, other supplies. So in this way, I can say that the church in Moldova was wonderful, working together. I didn't say in that, well, what you're doing here, but really being one body.
That is amazing to have all these different churches, different groups who some of them won't even talk to each other are now helping all together. This whole idea. I remember looking at pictures of a whole area where there's mats all over the floor and they're sleeping on the floor. The next thing I know is you were raised enough money where you bought beds where they can sleep on beds, and you had food. And I noticed that there were children out playing outside with missionaries, groups, playing with them, while the parents of the ladies would sit inside and they were unloading and sharing. And so you really provided more than just food and a shelter. You provided a lot of emotional support and things like this.
Yeah.
It was thankfully for our partners, financial prayer partners. These are people like you, Alan and Susan, and our families who support missionaries in Moldova. So every missionary asked for help, and people was very open to help. A lot of people donated money, so we could use them to help Ukrainians.
Well, this is one thing I've been saying all along. The people of Moldova are just so welcoming, such a warm heart and a warm spirit, and regardless of your differences spiritually or philosophically, you still have this thing of caring, and I think that's amazing, and it shows how amazing you as Moldovans, not just you two, but Moldovans all together, are just an amazing people.
These are our people. So if you come to Moldova, it's hard to not be at the table eating and drinking, because it's our hospitality to when we have guests. So you have to eat first.
And Moldovans, even they don't have too much food, they take the best what they have and give to guests.
Yeah, I noticed that too. So it's and sometimes I feel guilty. I said, I don't want you to do this. Oh no problem. And it's like I'm thinking, yeah, it is. It's more than you need to do, but it's what's really amazing is because I go there a lot. I have people now that come up to me all the time, watch my program, but I'll go there and they'll ask you, why do you come here so often? Who are we? I mean, why do you care about us? Almost like we're so poor here. We're nobody in this world. Why would you come and spend your money and your time to come for us? I don't understand that mentality. You probably do, but maybe you can help people understand, because I would like to take people there and let them see for themselves, and you can put them to work too.
Oh yeah.
But help our audience understand the people of Moldova. Liuda, you would be good at this.
Well, if you want to travel to visit some beautiful places, views, Moldova, you can find some, but the best what our country has are people with big heart and welcoming and very warm people. And I was amazed and proud of my people, Moldovans, how did they jump to help Ukrainian in need. we are very small country, and I saw a map in your church where was Ukraine, Romania, and many countries, and the whole between Ukraine and Romania, and it is Moldova, and there is not written Moldova at all. But I wish that our people will be famous by their hospitality.
You know, it's amazing. I called another one of the missionaries, Kiana, and to see how he was doing in all of this refugee stuff. And when I called him, I was on messenger video, and he answers it while he's driving. He's got 3 Ukrainians in the car. And so I goes, "What's going on?" "We're driving to Romania." So he was taking people from Ukraine all the way to Romania. I'm thinking, wow, and that can't be cheap on gas.
Yes.
You know, and so, I have to let you all know, it's almost like it doesn't matter. If they have the money, they're going to spend it to help. So there's something that you did that, Liuda, that I think I want everybody to understand, because I am just beside myself how well you you put out there the love and the care of what a Moldovan is. I remember several years ago, okay, when you were in your little apartment and you guys were struggling and you don't have a lot, and there was a lady and her son who didn't have a job and needed food, and you would give them food. And you did this quite often. And I don't know that she even went to attend church. I think you just wanted to help her, and you did. And then the last couple of times I've come to Moldova, I've seen her in church. Almost like your love for her and care for her as a person, and the fact that she needs help, responded to her like, wow, you're real. You're true. You're somebody that I want to know. Why would you do this? So much more for me. And I know you know who I'm talking about, but
Yes.
what you do is amazing.
Well, last time I couldn't sleep, and I started to pray and ask God, "What do you want to say to me?" And He told, I want to speak with you about love." And I started to think about His love to people, and He doesn't have any border, and He just gives His love. He loved so much all the world, all the people, what He gave the best, even the best what He had, His Son. So who I am and what is just a little bit of food, just a few monies to give to somebody, and just to trust God what He will provide us for tomorrow. He tells, think about today and live today, enjoy today.
And don't worry about tomorrow.
And yes, don't trust God. So I try to live this, to trust God for tomorrow. And He cares. I saw it many times.
And that's a very biblical way to live.
Yeah.
It's a very biblical way to live. You know. So.
And what it means to love people, to help them when they are in need, to trust God, what He calls you right now to do, just to be available to His Holy Spirit, to listen to Him, and to do what He's telling you right now. This is our journey with Him.
Well, I can tell you, living in a country where a lot of people don't have hope or have little hope, the two of you, and there's more of you, more people like you that I know of, but the two of you especially are amazing the way you have it together to offer hope to people. You know.
Well, I wouldn't say that we are special.
But I would.
Okay.
And this is why I would, because not everybody sees God's word and decides, I'm going to follow it 100% and truly to the best of my ability. A lot of people say, well, I'll do kind of what I want to and can, and if I don't do the rest, it's okay.
Okay, and that is something I wanted to say is like, well, we learn from Jesus' lives, what he did. Yeah, maybe we don't have many details, and we don't have that he received refugees or things like that, but we are learning from him, and we are doing this to honor him, not because we have special skills or because we are super people. We try to obey what Jesus commanded to us.
Yes. And the beauty is what you can see. This is his beautiness.
Yeah,
this
sometimes
is his love and his spirit.
Sometimes we do wrong. Yeah, we got in trouble, and we have to solve those conflicts. But yeah.
Yeah, and so basically when you say that you're trying to teach people that how they need to follow the teachings of Jesus, what you are doing is you're following the teachings of Jesus so that you can productively teach it.
Yeah.
Well, we live with him, and we encourage people to live with him also. And we want to be a good model. We want to say, like Paul said, follow me as I follow Jesus. And we try to do this every day.
Well, one thing I think is cool, now, I'm sure you know Radu and I talk, and he might get in trouble with you, and he'll come up to me and says, oh, I'm in trouble. Why? Because Liuda's mad at me, because I did this, and I know I'm wrong. So he admits he's wrong. It was really cool. He's like, there's all humility and not the opposite, which I think is good.
Well, I heard that several programs you had about relationship, and I believe, and we teach other people and couples, that relationship is not winning by yourself. Mm-hmm. The winning is like when we win together, being in relationship or staying in relationship. If a relationship is falling apart, and you say that I won these discussions, well, actually both of you lost everything. Yeah.
Well, that's so true. And I think probably for the majority of people that I know, and maybe this might be true for the majority of people, they don't understand that winning the argument is not winning the battle. Winning the battle, or the war, if you will, is when you win the relationship.
Yeah, and even I can be correct, but if, let's say about our relationship, if she's upset and she doesn't want to talk to me, so who is the winner? Nobody. And it's better to say, okay, even I am right, but I gave up to my rights to win our relationship.
Yeah.
And I feel much better when she's happy.
Well, I have to say, you're probably one of the best cooks I know.
Oh, thank you.
I have to tell everybody, we went, my wife and I went to Moldova last November, and before we went, we told Liuda and Radu that we're going to have Thanksgiving there, since we're going to be missing our Thanksgiving. And they're like, well, we've never had Thanksgiving, we don't have that. And so I said, no problem, we'll tell you how. So we went and bought all the turkey and everything, but we didn't have any pumpkin pie. The store didn't have any pumpkin pie. And so it was amazing how you thought, well, let me think about this. And you looked at a recipe, went to the other room, pulled out a pumpkin, and you made this amazing, didn't look like a pie, but pumpkin pie. and it was better than what I've ever had. I mean, it's like, how do you do this?
Well, I didn't know how it has to look like. I did just like, I felt like it has to be this, and it has to taste well. Well, everybody would enjoy. I have such philosophy. I want to enjoy every moment of this life, what God gives us. So food is a part of this joy also, and fellowship on the table, around the table with good food, makes good environment for developing relationship.
And we spend a lot of our time around the table.
Yeah.
The 3 or 4 of us. We really do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice, I think, everybody talks about how much people drink tea in England. I think they drink more tea in Moldova.
Yes. And if
breakfast,
you know,
lunch, dinner, mid-snack, day snack, night snack, it's all tea.
yes, and we have living rooms separated from dining rooms, and we try to make in our new house very well-looking living room. But I understood that the most important place in our house is dining room and the table where everybody stays most of the time and have good food and good discussions and good environment. This is very important.
Yeah.
These are special moments for everybody.
Now, there's no way that we're going to be able to do our topic today.
Yes.
We were going to talk about solving conflicts, and hopefully we can schedule another time for you to come. If not, we'll find out.
Yeah, you can give the direction so that people will be prepared for next time.
Yeah, so we'll talk about solving conflicts another time. But I want to continue with this discussion because this is good. We have a little bit of time left. Now that you've been in leadership for off and on for a while now in Campus Crusade, you're also a leadership in a church because you're one of the pastors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, God's Space is called.
God's Space, yes.
And so, tell me, the both of you, because I want both of you to respond to this, as leaders, because you've been at the very beginning, and now it's 22 years later. But because I see you not only as leaders, but I see you doing things that leaders here won't do. But I see you in humility doing things because it's just the thing you're supposed to do. Talk about leadership, because we have pastors, we have missionaries that do watch this program, and I think that you have a good example, and you'd be a good voice for some of these people.
Well, I was involved in starting 2 churches. One of them is the one we have today, I didn't do something special, only being active. So therefore, I am in leadership position. But what I learned from other leaders. Being a leader is not a position. Being a leader is taking responsibility for people leading to Christ or leading to live with Christ. And yes, we are part of Campus Crusade, but also we are part of the church. I don't divide this in myself. It's the ministry with gifts that God gave to us. So what we can do in Moldova, we don't have many evangelical believers. Yeah, so we cannot go like in the store to pick up what leaders to have, and and because we are few believers, we have to do what God is calling us to do. So my desire is to disciple people. And I find this possibility in Campus Crusade. Also, I find it in the church. So, yeah, I'm doing this not by position, by calling.
That's a really neat way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Liuda.
For me, the best model is Jesus. What he did and how what he said. He said, if you want to have authority, serve people. And Jesus, had all authority. He had all power on the earth and on the heaven. But he washed his disciples' legs. And he being God, he did what slaves do usually. And this is for me a model how to serve. I don't care about positions. I do what I see, what I have to do, and that's it. I don't ask, is it my position square? No, I don't think about that. Just do.
And it's probably a perfect way to look at it, because Jesus came and said, I did not come to be served, but I came to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we look at that, no matter what position we are, whether we look at a position because we are a pastor or a teacher or a leader of some type, are we serving? I think that's perfect. Mm-hmm. And I like the idea that you said that, I don't see it as positions. It's just part of my life, and I do it as God is leading me. So I think you two have an amazing outlook of what ministry is. There's a lot of people that are in the ministry that I'm not sure are called to the ministry, and there's a lot of people that are called to the ministry that struggle. And maybe you have struggled in the beginning, but it seems like you've already struggled with time now.
Yeah, well, there was time when I didn't really know what to be a leader. So as many people, I thought that, well, having a position is a very good place to, to do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And doing whatever you want, I wanted. So even results were, I would say, great, but my relationship with my team, my relationship with people was bad. Because I wanted to do what I thought that would be good. But later I learned that no, to be a leader is to be a servant.
Yeah.
And it's a burden on me when I have position. And I do have position, but I don't really think that I have position. It's more a responsibility. And more people are watching you, and you have to be more careful. Sometimes you are not natural, but again, so growing in faith, growing with Jesus, it's really different. So position sometimes is good, sometimes is not, but the calling or the attitude of serving people, it's much important.
When the senior pastor of your church wants to keep you on because he sees how relevant and how important your outlook is and how wise you are, it says a lot. When your own teenage son tells me my father is really wise, and not too many older teenage boys say that about their parents. Mm-hmm. It says a lot about how you are faithful to God. The both of you are so faithful, and I am so honored to be able to support you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
I am so honored, and I want my audience to understand that they don't live on a salary, but they live on support. If you're watching this, you can click on the link and you can go to their website and look all through it. And if you wanted to donate to them and become a regular person to donate, you become a partner with them. They do write every month. You write pretty much every month now.
Right.
And let you know what they're doing. They have to be kept accountable by Campus Crusade. They aren't doing stuff on their own, and we don't know about it. But they are held accountable for what they do, and I have seen it with my own eyes. They are amazing. If you want to consider wanting to know whether you should or could or whether you should support them or not, and you want to ask me, you have, most everybody has my phone number available on my website or my email, or you can write me on YouTube. But I totally support this couple, hands down, and I would always support you guys.
Thank you.
So, anyway, well, it's been really nice having you here. I'm so glad you came, Liuda.
Thank you. And I guess that because of me, you didn't tell on topic what you are going to.
No, it wasn't that at all. It's just because it got to be past the half hour, and we're still talking about. We haven't even talked about the refugees yet, and we're still talking about your ministry. And it was got to be so much that the topic just didn't play into it. So I think maybe God led this way so that people understand your ministry, Moldova's ministry, how important Moldova is to the world. I mean, literally, how important this little bitty country is so important. To me, it is so obvious that God is alive and working in Moldova. It is so obvious.
He is.
And for you to be a part of this, I would feel honored if I was you. Just, wow, God is using me.
We do feel like this.
So this is why, not because you're here.
Yeah.
But anyway, that kind of wraps up our time. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your ministry. Your ministry has been a blessing to so many hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And I just pray the Lord will continue to bless you and you follow the leading of the Holy Spirit.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us today. Everyone have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and we'll see you the next time. Aloha.